Batman and Robin. Okay, fight scene between Invincible and Conquest. What's up everyone? Today I'm going to be reacting to my subscribers' artwork. That's right, I'm going to be reacting to your artwork. So if you don't follow me on Instagram or TikTok, I highly recommend you do. Since a couple of days ago I reached out to everybody and I asked anybody who wants to potentially have their art shown on my channel to send it over. And I'm really excited because I was taking a look as I was sorting through all of the pictures and I picked out some of my favorite ones. I haven't gotten a chance to fully look at them. We're going to be doing that together, so make sure to stay tuned. And I plan on making this a series, so if you ever want to have your art shown on my channel, make sure to follow my TikTok and my Instagram, which I'll plug here somewhere. Okay, so I've got all of the drawings lined up now, so let's start reacting. Up first, I think it's Matteo who sent over a couple of pictures. I chose my 3 favorite ones, so let's get started with, we're gonna kick it off with this super cool Spider-Man artwork. If you don't know, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero of all time, and I used to love drawing him all the time growing up, and I'd say Spider-Man and Pokemon are the things that I used to always draw to practice. I really like the angle of this drawing, so Spider-Man is kind of like coming towards the camera, towards the viewer, if that makes sense. I think, yeah, this is a cool perspective. And then also, I don't really plan to go too in depth with like critiquing or anything like that. I can give out a few pointers here and there, but if we really want to do like a critique session, that could be a separate video series. But honestly, for this one, if I were to suggest anything, which this looks really solid already, if it were in my style a little bit, I would consider adding some more shadows. So for example, I would choose overhead light as the light source. So that means that underneath like these fingers that are shooting the webs would be a little bit darker, you know, underneath the face would be a little darker. But that's just what I would do. Honestly, this looks super cool as it is. Another thing that I would add is maybe considering using some grays in the webs a little bit, just to make them a little bit more dynamic. And then up next, we're switching gears, so we're going from more of a cartoon superhero kind of drawing to an anime drawing with Naruto. And then also another really good drawing, something that I noticed for this one is that there's some more shadows incorporated here. So for example, up here in the sleeves with the left hand that's extended, and then also here on the orange part of his suit. Another thing that I like is the aura that's going around him, so like the yellowish green color. I kind of like how minimalist it is. I don't know if you've seen Dragon Ball or those kinds of shows where the aura is insane, and I'm not knocking that because Dragon Ball is my favorite anime of all time, but I like how for this one you opted for a more minimalist aura, which I think is really cool. And moving on to the third drawing, so this was my favorite out of the ones that you sent over. It's this really cool Batman and Robin drawing where somebody's like casting a light on them, like a light beam. So I imagine they were probably trying to be sneaky going through Arkham, and this drawing is really good overall. Immediately, one of the things that I noticed is how much more line work there is. So for example, here on Batman's cape, like on the folds, you know, there's a lot of lines representing, you know, like creases, folds, and then also the cross hatching here at the top. It's really cool. And then also this one uses the most color, which I'm a huge fan of color. And if you've taken a look through my channel, wherever I can add colors, I always do it. This is like candy for my eyes. I like the expression that Robin has. It's kind of a mix between angry and then also a mix of like surprise. I don't know, I think that's funny. And then Batman is just like being Batman, like, you know, being nonchalant about it. Oh, and then also I think it's called rim light. Yeah, you did a really good job with the rim light. So for example, on Robin's hair, you can see the light blue reflecting off of it. On Batman's gloves, super good job. I love all of these drawings, and this one was definitely my favorite out of the 3, so keep it up. Okay, so up next we have the art guy, so let's kick it off with his drawings. Oh, okay, so we've got some more Spider-Man drawings, which I approve of. He sent in 2 artworks. It looks like one is traditional, and then the other one is a digital. So let's start off with the digital one. Right off the bat, this is giving me like Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse vibes with the whole color scheme and everything, especially with the background. It's very reminiscent of those movies. I've never done digital artwork before, so I wouldn't really know what to describe, like what's happening in terms of tools or brushes or techniques or anything like that. But just looking at it, I can tell that like a lot of time went into this. I think all of the yellow lines like behind him are his Spidey sense going off, which looks super dope. And then also I like all of the color variation on Spider-Man's actual body. There's some light reds, dark reds, and then also like a little bit of a magenta, like pink kind of color here. Oh, okay, and as I'm leaning in, I can see all of the little like dots, the reflective parts of the lens, which is really cool. So really nice detail. And then also the little shine here on his right eye, so the corner of his lens is also giving off a little like sparkle of light, which is really cool. And again, if I were to throw in some things for maybe some suggestions, one thing I would say is to add some shadows to the body. Since the head, it looks really good, but then the body, since there's not a lot of dark reds, it just kind of looks like it's all on an even feel, like if that makes sense. There's not much depth, So I would consider maybe adding some shadows underneath the neck or like right here in the chest division area. Overall, this is a super good drawing, and you knocked it out of the park with this one, so good job. I feel like I'm saying good job to everybody, but everybody's doing a really good job, so come on. Okay, moving on to the other Spider-Man drawing that he sent over. It looks like he made this with markers, if I'm not mistaken, and this is also another good drawing. One suggestion that I would have is when you're coloring in with the markers, I like to have a smooth finish for my drawings, so I would go back and make sure to color evenly and not in like long broad strokes. That's how you can see these individual marker lines. But if that's the style that you were going for, then it still looks really good. I would just recommend blending out the colors a little bit more so that you can't tell where the streaks of lines are. Solid job. Now let's move on to the next person. So now we're gonna move on to Ashin's drawings. I want to start it off with the Shadow the Hedgehog drawing, which is pretty cool. Everybody's drawings are super good. Now it makes me happy to see that all of my subscribers, everybody here is talented, so props to all of you guys. But yeah, just overall a really good drawing. So now let's take a look at this drawing. So I actually don't know who this character is. Oh, it's Luffy. Duh. Okay, so he showed his progression for his Luffy drawing. So starting off with this, just pencil drawing, pencil sketch. My rule of thumb is if the pencil sketch looks good, then everything else is just going to be a piece of cake. All of the tracing, all of the coloring, it's super easy. The hardest part, and I genuinely mean this, the hardest part is making sure that you get that pencil sketch with all the proportions, all the details correctly. That's the hardest part. So you did a good job with the foundation, really good job. And in the second picture, it looks like he traced it over with markers. So again, you get that clean look because it's all ink now. Now we can move on to the third one. I like that you went with using fewer colors for this drawing. The tuxedo looks really cool, like the black and white makes it look elegant. And then you really captured the expression on his face really well. Like it's a really big smile. It looks really cheery. So good job with that. And then also the eyes, like it all just tells you that this guy's really happy. So great art, keep it up. Oh wait, no, there's one more drawing. So it looks like you also did a drawing of Heat Blast on March of this year, so before I did mine, and yeah, this also looks cool. Keep it up. Okay, so moving on to Sosa Core's artwork. So I chose out two of my favorite drawings from Sosa Core, and let's take a look at another Spider-Man drawing. So dub. Ooh, so all of the other Spider-Man drawings had a lot of yellow and orange in the background. So this is the first Spider-Man drawing with some blue in it, so I approve. I really like the expression that Spider-Man has on his face. It's really like a mad, like, what are you doing kind of face. And then also like the spider sense going off with the lines around him. I think this is really cool how you integrated that like vertical line. It's almost kind of like an anime scene where somebody's about to power up, or like they have like this really big moment, and there's always that typical like slash across the screen of like color. For example, if you've seen when Gohan transforms into Super Saiyan 2, there's something similar. So I think that's a really cool artistic art choice. And again, it's another example of how everybody uses their own imagination and really adds their own flair into drawing. So good job. One thing that I would suggest is I would bring the spider logo on his body a little bit further up. Oh, okay, and then another drawing which I think is inspired by one that I made. It's the scene of Spidey fighting Venom, and it looks like another color marker user, so cool. So overall, you captured the proportions of both Venom and Spidey really good. You did a good job of showing how tiny Spider-Man is in comparison to Venom, which is why I used this reference in the first place, because I don't know, it just goes to show how it looks like a daunting task for Spider-Man, but he always rises up to the challenge. So, and this like physical representation is like spot on. Oh, okay, so now we're gonna move on to my ink journal, and I love his profile, by the way, which says ink addict, full-time dad, part-time artist. Like that's a funny caption. Oh, okay, so when I saw this, I knew that I wanted to react to it, which is this drawing of all of the, not all of them, but a lot of the red Power Rangers. This is super dope. I grew up watching Power Rangers as a kid, and a lot of the ones here were before my era, I'm not gonna lie, so I'm not too familiar with all of them. I think I only know this one in the far right corner, which is Wild Force, if I'm not mistaken. But I grew up on Dino Thunder, Jungle Fury, Power Rangers Samurai, so I wish you would have incorporated those here, but I mean, this is sick. You have a collage of a ton of Red Rangers. I'm not too sure who this villain is in the background, but this galaxy like black with like dots, white dots representing the stars is super sick. You killed it with this one. You killed it. This is making me want to do a larger scale drawing, something similar to this where I add in a ton of characters, some cool background stuff. So good submission. I like it. When I saw this one, I knew I had to include it as well. So this is a fight scene between Invincible and Conquest. Invincible is really special to me because Invincible is the whole reason that my channels finally started to blow up on Instagram, on TikTok, and YouTube. So I love drawing Invincible, and then just on top of that, the series is so good, and I can't wait for the next season to come out. So I like how beat up Mark looks right here with all of the blood pouring out of his eye. And then also it looks like the right eye is on the verge of popping out, which is honestly spot on for what happened in the show. Like, Mark was getting the beat out of him. So good rendition, good rendition. I can't tell what kind of paper this is drawn on, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but this looks to me like it's also a little bit of watercolor, especially here in the blues, which represent the sky. That's what really caught my attention, was the gradient from like the dark to the light. You know what? Maybe I might try to draw this one day. That actually would be a really cool idea, where I recreate my subscribers' artwork in my style. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. And then on to the last drawing for my ink journal. It's this cool drawing of 4 characters. We have Spider-Gwen, Omni-Man, Spider-Man, and Invincible. This is interesting. So Spider-Gwen looks like she's a hybrid of Venom as well, with like the tongue sticking out and everything. Yeah, I really like the detail on all of these drawings. The line work, it's really good. Keep up the really good work. Okay, so up here's a cool one. This person used one of my drawings as a reference, and it's this drawing that I made of Invincible in his blue suit. I made this a couple months ago when I was still in university. I actually think it was the last one that I made while I was still in school, so good choice. You chose a good one to reference. So this is my original drawing, and then up next is his drawing. Yeah, this is pretty good. I like this. I'd say overall you captured the pose, like the position of the head, pretty well. Yeah, I think you did a good job. Okay, and now we're gonna move on to the last person. This is Ollie Owls Draws, and this was my favorite submission from him. So he did a story post on his TikTok, and I mean, just taking a look at this, I know for a fact this probably took some time to draw, and the end result is definitely worth it. And then also the fact that he's holding a sword, kind of like "you shall not pass" kind of position, which looks cool. And then because this is a night, the fact that there's only black, predominantly black, white, and then some gray, it matches really well. All right, that's the end of the video, everybody. I really hope that everybody had as much of a good time as I did reacting to all of these artworks. I think it's really cool that we've been able to build a little community where we all feel comfortable in sharing our artwork. We can just admire each other's artwork, get inspiration from one another, and then also it's really cool that people want to submit their artwork to me for you know, maybe not even just a review or an opinion, but for me to take a look at it. I think that's a really cool experience, and it feels pretty cool. So thank you to everybody that submitted their artwork, that was trusting enough to send it. I hope you all enjoyed having your art shown, and then really good job, everybody. And for anybody that wants to potentially have their art featured on my channel, make sure to follow my Instagram and my TikTok, since those are the only places where I request drawings, since it's the easiest way for me to access them. You know, I could just download your pictures from DMs or stuff like that. Make sure to follow me. Stay tuned for when I do a part 2 of this video. Everybody, good artwork, and that's the end of the video. Peace.